Kevin Costner just dropped a confession that no one saw coming. "She was the love of my life." A simple sentence, but one that shattered the polished silence Hollywood had wrapped around him for decades. This is the man who conquered the big screen, who held Oscars in one hand and global fame in the other. A man who rode high on the wave of success, with hits like Dances with Wolves, The Bodyguard, and Yellowstone. But behind that iconic cowboy stare and the rugged strength fans adore was a man quietly harboring a pain so personal he kept it locked away. Until now. At 68, after a highly publicized divorce, and with 7 children spread across different chapters of his life, Kevin Costner is finally cracking open the vault of his heart. And the truth he's revealing? It's not the tabloid headline anyone expected. It's deeper, more haunting, and surprisingly raw. The woman who truly captured Kevin's soul, the one he calls his greatest love, was there at the very beginning, long before the red carpets, the private jets, and the sprawling ranches. Before we dive into this emotional ride through love lost, missed chances, and the fragility of fame, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your state or country in the comments, and let me know, what's your favorite Kevin Costner role? I'm giving away 3 limited edition Yellowstone box sets, and your thoughtful comment could win one. Let's rewind the clock. Long before the world knew his name, a young Kevin Costner walked the campus of California State University Fullerton, trying to make sense of his dreams. And that's where he met Cindy Silva. She wasn't just a pretty face, she was smart, compassionate, and grounded. The kind of woman you introduce to your parents and never stop being proud of. "She was smarter than me," he once said. "I was just proud she'd go out with me." That wasn't a Hollywood script. That was real. In 1978, they married. She supported him through the grind of auditions, struggling paychecks, and the heartbreak of early failures. As Costner's career took flight in the 80s with The Untouchables and Bull Durham, the fame that once seemed like a dream started to corrode the foundation they built. Temptations followed. So did distance, and eventually, regret. Their divorce in 1994, at the height of his fame, wasn't just costly, $80 million, but emotionally devastating. "My faith was shaken," he admitted. "You see your kids half as much, and that's a huge loss." That heartbreak changed him. It hardened him, and it set the tone for the relationships that followed. Brief, intense, but always incomplete. In the aftermath, Kevin entered what many call his wilderness years. The headlines showed him dating stunning women, supermodel Elle Macpherson, actress Bridget Rooney, who would later give birth to his son Liam. But the spark never lasted. He was searching for something real in a world obsessed with illusion. Even in these new romances, there were echoes of Cindy, the girl who had believed in him before the spotlight hit. Friends say he spoke of her with a wistful longing, as though the fame he chased had cost him the one thing that felt most genuine. As his career stumbled with flops like Waterworld and The Postman, his personal life mirrored the chaos. Costner wasn't just losing box office battles, he was losing pieces of himself. The man who once seemed untouchable now appeared lost in his own legend. Then came Christine Baumgartner, a model and handbag designer 2 decades younger. She entered his life in 1998, like a second chance wrapped in youth and optimism. But even that came with tension. She wanted children. He wasn't sure. He'd already been through heartbreak, already had 4 kids, and wasn't ready to leap again. They briefly split. "I'll wait," she told him. But not forever. It was a challenge, and maybe exactly what he needed. They reconciled. He proposed. In 2004, they married on his breathtaking Aspen Ranch. 3 children followed: Caden, Hayes, and Grace. It seemed like Kevin had finally found stability. For 18 years, they stood as one of Hollywood's most quietly enduring couples. But in 2023, it all came crashing down. Another divorce. Another wave of speculation. And this time, with so much of life behind him, Kevin didn't retreat into silence. Instead, he looked back, past the fame, the marriages, the accolades, and he said it. She was the love of my life. It wasn't Christine. It wasn't Elle. It was Cindy. The girl who believed in him when he was just a college dreamer with no credits and no cash. The woman who carried the weight when he couldn't. Who raised their children while he built a legacy. In his twilight years, Costner isn't hiding behind movie roles anymore. He's speaking from the rawest corner of his heart. Why did he wait so long? Maybe because it took losing everything again to realize what he missed the most. Maybe because love, real love, only makes sense in hindsight. Or maybe, just maybe, Kevin Costner is finally ready to stop acting and start living his truth. And that truth? It's beautifully, tragically simple. He had the love of his life, and he let her go. For nearly 2 decades, it seemed like Kevin Costner had finally found the kind of quiet, enduring love that had slipped through his fingers the first time around. He spoke often and fondly of Christine Baumgartner, painting a picture of partnership built on shared purpose and mutual care. In 2020, he described their home as a flowing river, ever-changing but navigable as long as they stayed in sync. But beneath the surface of their carefully composed life, a slow drift was beginning. As Costner's career roared back to life with the colossal success of Yellowstone, and his dream project Horizon finally surged forward, the stability he had cherished began to erode. Once again, the pull of art clashed with the pull of home. Then came the jolt no one saw coming. In May 2023, the news broke. Christine had filed for divorce after 18 years of marriage. Fans were stunned. Hollywood buzzed. This wasn't just another celebrity split. This felt personal, raw. It quickly spiraled into a high-profile legal skirmish. Behind the courtroom doors, it wasn't just about finances or custody. It was about the collapse of a dream many thought would last. Tensions had apparently been simmering for a while, with reports suggesting that Costner's intense filming schedule and relentless dedication to Horizon had created a distance too wide to bridge. For Costner, now in his late 60s, the breakup struck a particularly deep chord. A source close to him revealed that he hadn't wanted this. If he could fix it, he would. His official statement was restrained, something about circumstances beyond his control, but the heartache showed through. When he stepped out to promote Horizon that summer, there was something different in his eyes. The confident cowboy was still there, but he carried a new weight, something quieter, more introspective. He started talking less about achievements and more about balance, about what gets left behind when ambition takes the wheel for too long. In a candid moment during one of those interviews, he was asked a simple but loaded question. Did he still believe in love? At first his answer was expected. Of course he did. Everybody wants to be in love, he said, voice steady. But then came the shift. A pause, a glance inward. When I think about love, the kind that truly shapes you, I always come back to those early years, he said slowly. Cindy and we were just kids trying to figure life out together. It was a moment of vulnerability that few saw coming. With the world watching, Costner peeled back the layers of time and fame and admitted something that shook even the seasoned interviewer. She was the love of my life. We didn't make it, and that's on me in many ways. But when you ask me about real love, that was it. Everything else after that felt different. The revelation landed like a wave across Hollywood. After all the years, all the red carpets and box office hits, here was Kevin Costner admitting that the woman who had stood beside him before the spotlight, Cindy Silva, still held that irreplaceable corner of his heart. Fans who had swooned over his romantic leads now saw something far more poignant. The man behind the romance hadn't moved on from his first love. Not completely. And that kind of honesty in a town built on illusion felt like a rare, almost sacred truth. But the timing? That's what raised eyebrows. Why now, after all these years, would he open up like this? Those close to Costner say he's entered a season of reflection. He's not just looking back at the roles he's played, but at the people he's loved, the choices he's made, and the wounds that never quite healed. Kevin's thinking about legacy, one longtime friend shared. Not just the legacy of his films, but of the life he's lived and the people who shaped him. Part of that legacy includes Cindy. Over the years, they've stayed connected, cordial for the sake of their children, but something has shifted lately. Sources say they've been spending more time together, especially at family events now that their kids are grown. One insider even said Cindy has been a quiet, grounding presence for Kevin during this latest heartbreak. He values her wisdom. That split might have been painful back then, but it left behind a friendship that means everything to him now. Naturally, rumors have begun to swirl. Could there be a second chapter for these two? When pressed about it, Costner didn't confirm or deny. He just smiled and said, "Life has a funny way of circling back." It was cryptic, maybe even hopeful, and it left the world wondering. This resurgence of connection with Cindy isn't happening in isolation. It's unfolding alongside Costner's most ambitious work to date. Horizon, his four-part Western epic, isn't just another project. It's his legacy in motion. He's poured nearly $40 million of his own money into it, betting on a story that speaks to the roots of the American spirit. The stakes are high, not just professionally but emotionally, and that's what makes this moment so layered. While Kevin tries to finish the biggest story of his career, he's also circling back to the first chapter of his own life. There's a certain symmetry here that feels almost cinematic. As he wrestles with the loss of one marriage, he finds himself drawn back to the person who saw him before the fame, before the complications. It's not about rewriting the past. It's about honoring it. And maybe, just maybe, about finding peace in it. Costner's admission about Cindy Silva wasn't just a nostalgic musing. It was a doorway into something deeper. A truth that resonates far beyond celebrity headlines. He explained it best himself. That first love, it's different. Before the world gets involved, before success clouds things. You love each other for who you really are. Maybe you only get that once. That foundation, he said, sets a tone for everything after. And if that foundation cracks, everything built on top of it carries a quiet tremble. So perhaps the real story isn't just about a rekindled romance, but about a man trying to make peace with the echoes of his past, about legacy, about love, and about finally coming home, not just to someone, but to himself. It's the kind of revelation that doesn't just stir headlines, it shifts the entire perception of a man long thought to be emotionally untouchable. When Kevin Costner publicly declared that Cindy Silva was the love of his life, it wasn't a stunt or a nostalgic nod. It was raw, human, and startlingly unguarded. That vulnerability pierced the Hollywood haze surrounding him and revealed the man beneath the legend. Suddenly, the characters he played, stoic heroes, brooding lovers, felt more like echoes of a truth he'd spent decades concealing. According to insiders close to Costner, this wasn't just about longing for the past. This was about naming what had haunted him, quietly influencing every chapter that followed. You could say he's been walking with a shadow all these years. Friends say that for decades, Costner carried the silent burden of that "what if?" A lingering ache that no success, no award, no blockbuster role could erase. The way he spoke about Silva, with the kind of honesty most reserved for closed diaries or late-night talks, wasn't just emotional, it was transformative. One confidant put it plainly: Kevin finally stopped running from the truth. Whether that leads to rekindling a romance with Silva is unclear, but that's not the point. The act of naming her, of calling her the one, seems to have lifted a weight that's quietly shaped every relationship since. That melancholic undercurrent many have sensed in Costner, despite the glitz, the accolades, the legacy, suddenly makes more sense. It wasn't sadness. It was unfinished emotional business. And now, stepping into a new chapter as a single father again, Costner appears more grounded than ever. Some might view his confession as a man caught in the past. But those who know him best see something different. A man finally unafraid to embrace his history in order to step into his future with clarity. "People are supposed to be together," he said recently. "I believe that could still happen for me." That simple, tender statement reveals a man who stopped looking backward in sorrow and started looking forward with hope. Earlier this year, whispers linked him to singer Jewel. It could have ignited a media circus. But Costner, seasoned by decades of relentless scrutiny, immediately doused the fire with grace. "We've never gone out," he clarified. "She's special, and I don't want rumors to ruin a friendship that's important to me." That kind of restraint reveals a deeper shift in him. Gone is the man who once tried to control his narrative. In his place stands someone who lets truth be the compass. That shift didn't come overnight. It was earned through bruises, both public and private. For now, his focus remains on his children and on Horizon, his most ambitious cinematic undertaking yet. But behind the scenes, there's a quiet openness to whatever may come next. His recent comments carry the weight of someone who has seen joy and pain up close and come out grateful, not bitter. "I've been bruised," he admitted, "but I've had an amazing life." That line isn't just reflective, it's redemptive. It signals a man who has learned to hold joy and regret in the same breath and recognize the value of both. And that recognition has extended far beyond his personal life. Professionally, Costner has also built a remarkable empire, one shaped as much by smart business moves as by on-screen charisma. Over the years, he's amassed a collection of high-end real estate across California, including a sprawling oceanfront property in Santa Barbara that's reportedly valued north of $100 million. His luxury car garage has included classics like the 1969 Mustang Shelby GT 500 and modern beasts like the Range Rover Autobiography. Costner's also known to favor elegant timepieces, with Rolex and Patek Philippe often spotted on his wrist. While he doesn't flaunt it, his private travel includes access to chartered jets and top-tier aviation clubs. Behind the scenes, his investments span music, hospitality, and film production. He once co-owned a casino and continues to hold equity in entertainment ventures tied to Yellowstone. Notably, Costner has protected his assets through substantial insurance policies, covering film delays, property risks, and health contingencies. His financial playbook? Diversify early, protect long-term, and invest in passion projects with legacy potential. What emerges from this phase of Costner's life is a portrait of a man who stopped performing off-screen, who no longer plays the role of the flawless movie hero in real life. Instead, he's chosen honesty, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. That admission about Silva wasn't just an emotional confession. It was a kind of emotional release, and for many it changed everything. It made his cinematic roles feel more authentic. It made him feel more human. His journey, from the young, hungry actor of the 80s to the global superstar of the 90s to the reflective creative force of today, isn't a straight line. It's winding, filled with regrets, second chances, and the wisdom that comes from both. He's no longer chasing an image. He's chasing something real. And in that pursuit, he's shown us that closure doesn't always come in the form of reunion. Sometimes it comes from speaking your truth after years of silence. That's what Kevin did. And it might be the bravest thing he's ever done. So now we're left with the question, will he find love again? Maybe. Maybe not. But he's finally made peace with his past. And in sharing his, Costner gave the world something rare. Truth, unfiltered and profound. So what did you take away from this unexpected twist in Costner's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from for a chance to win that limited edition Yellowstone box set. And if you found this story captivating, you won't want to miss our next deep dive into the celebrity romances that defied the odds. Subscribe, like, and join us again. Because behind every Hollywood legend, there's a real, very human heart still beating.